Hello and welcome. Today we're going to look at a game that I played recently in the Nimzo Indian defense in a blitz game online. I played knight to f6, c4 was played, e6, knight to c3, bishop to b4, queen to c2, castles, bishop to g5, h6, bishop to h4, and here I played c5. My opponent responded fairly quickly with pawn takes pawn, and I played knight to a6. So notice here I'm developing another piece rather than moving my bishop again. And I'd recommend this in your games too, just to continue to develop pieces versus moving the same one multiple times. Of course, you always want to check that your opponent has no way to actually keep that pawn. And because I have both the bishop and the knight attacking it, and my opponent can introduce two defenders, I know I'll get it back. My opponent then played knight to f3. I played knight takes c5, e3. I played d6. And then the rook came over to d1. I played bishop to d7. Now this gives up the pawn on d6, but as you'll see I had a bit of an idea here. Queen to c7, bishop to g3, and this is actually the move that I somewhat expected my opponent to make, and I'd planned for. What do you think I should do here? Why don't you go ahead and pause the video and see if you can find the next move that I made within this game. Okay, so you probably noticed that the knight on c3 is pinned. And I went ahead and played the move knight f to e4, taking advantage of this pin, threatening both the rook and the bishop. So now if the rook was to move anywhere, like a6 or take the pawn, or whatever else that rook would want to do, I'll be able to play knight takes bishop, and then respond to the rook wherever it went. So my opponent went ahead and played rook back to d1, and I played queen to a5. My opponent played rook to c1, and I played bishop to a4. Now my opponent played queen to e2, and then it was, bishop takes, no, knight takes. I took with the knight. Knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes check, knight moves down. And do you see my next move here? It's somewhat natural. It's the same move we looked for earlier. Knight to e4 again, introducing a third attack on that knight. So my opponent played rook takes c3, I played queen takes c3, queen to d3, and do you see how to finish this game off? That's right, queen to c1 check, king would go to e2, queen to d1 checkmate. It's kind of a fun little trap, and much of this is based on the fact that that bishop left the diagonal, right? Because if the bishop was still on this diagonal, it could have rescued the king's queenside situation there and made things a lot easier for white. I hope you enjoyed this trap, and I hope you are able to play a similar series of moves within your own games. Take care.